10 o'clock or 10:01, whichever way you look at it. Time to get started this morning. Glad you're here. So, beautiful Lord's Day. We'll begin the word of prayer this morning. John Paul, would you lead some prayer, please? Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to look at maybe a series of topics, and sort of entitled them, What Jesus Had to Say About, and fill in the blank. Because we cover some of these topics, and many times they're not covered that often within religion or within church services anywhere. But I think many times these topics are black and white, easy to understand. And yet there again, many of them are controversial. And yet many cause of the controversy goes around many of them. Many churches aren't willing to talk about them because of it divides churches sometimes over the topics that we're going to look at. They're afraid of the reaction of the people, what it might do to their credibility. They may cause a protest on their front steps. Topics like that we're going to talk about. And many churches have surrendered in order to be politically correct. So they don't want to cause any controversy, don't want to hurt any feelings, so we'll just talk about things that everybody would agree on. Well, the Bible says we've got to cover all of it, the whole part of the truth. And there are many in religion that are tired that these topics aren't being discussed. And it may be that by looking at them, talking about them, it would help us to say, hey, we cover that. We cover that. If you talk to somebody about it and say, church we go to, they never talk about that. Well, we talked about last Sunday or something like that. So we need to cover them because Christ said they're important and need to be covered. So next few weeks, that's what we'll be looking at. But this morning, we're going to look at what did Jesus say about lying. A lot of people in the world have no problem with lying. They open their mouth, a lie comes out. They just don't think any second to it. They just go ahead and do it. It seems they had rather tell a lie than tell the truth. And guess which day is National Tell a Lie Day in our nation? There's a day. If you really need one to tell a lie, April 4th. It's National Tell a Lie Day. So if you don't tell a lie, it'll be okay on that day. Nothing will be said about it. So, but we have a national day for it. Because of what lying is doing in our nation, I think it has made inroads within the church as well. And they'll do that. And one of the worst things that the Lord wants us to be called is a liar. I don't want to be called a liar. I don't think you want to be called a liar. It's going to ruin our reputation to be called a liar. So the best way to not be called a liar is don't lie. That's the best way about it. But the thing about it is, we all lie to some degree. It may not what we would call big lies, maybe those little white lies, but to some degree, we all do it a little bit here and there. And that's something that we need to, look at and try to catch and try to figure it may be a better way to say it. Somebody asks you a question, and the answer may be a better way to answer, so we need to look at that. But Jesus certainly doesn't want us to lie, because when we lie, it makes us have a connection with the devil. He tells the Pharisees this in John 8, verse 44. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it. So if we lie, well, guess who we're following the pattern after? It'd be after the devil. And who wants to do that? And here Christ gets on to the Pharisees here because of their massive amount of lying. So therefore, stay away from it. The first time we read about Satan in the Scriptures, he's telling a lie. And he'll never tell the truth. If we could talk to him one-on-one, anything we would ask him, we would know right off that it would be a lie. So everything he says is a lie. And when we lie, we sort of fall there under his influence, I guess. When we think of liars, sometimes we think of politicians, because they'll say one thing to one crowd and say just the opposite to another crowd. They're good about that. Sometimes a merchant will lie to you. He will tell you that there's nothing wrong with this particular item that you're wanting to buy. He just wants to make $1, and he knows there's something wrong with it. Or he'll build that product up and make it more than what it is. And sometimes merchants will do that. We find many individuals who, some of these investigation shows, where they have a hidden camera. It may be you take your car in to be serviced, and they got a camera there, and this guy makes up something that's wrong with your car. Maybe he's the one that sort of makes the problem. Well, they catch him. And people, they'll do that. They'll lie because they want to make money out of it. Some of the biggest liars are preachers. They'll tell you a lie. There may be those that will tell you, here's what the plan of salvation is, and it matches nothing to what the Scriptures have to say. Well, that's a lie. They may do it deliberately, and there are those who will do that. They know that what they're teaching is wrong. They know it, but they say it anyway. They don't want to go against or lose their position or lose their job or whatever, so they'll deliberately tell a lie, knowing that it's wrong. And there's some that very well may be doing it out of ignorance. They just don't know when they teach certain things. But again, people lie. People lie to get out of trouble. They lie to make themselves look bigger or better or smarter or more courageous. They'll do that. In a survey that was taken, it found that 91% of Americans lie on a regular basis. It doesn't bother them, a regular basis. And a person, how many times you heard a person say, you want me to be honest with you? No, I want you to lie. Let me be honest with you. Okay. Well, to be perfectly honest, what's it been before? If it's perfectly honest now, what's been the problem beforehand? Again, we got to take what Christ said in Matthew 5:37. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no, for whatever is more than these is from the evil one. So we need to speak the truth. And maybe speak it in a proper way, in a correct way, in a way that doesn't destroy. There's a good way and a bad way to speak truth, and that's maybe what we need to learn from it. You know, they have all these lie detectors that, you be hooked up to, see them on television programs and trying to find if a person's telling the truth or not. And telling how do they know this person is telling the truth? Because in the brain, there is some kind of chemical that's released when you lie. And when it's released, it causes your blood pressure to go up a little bit. It causes your temperature to spike a little bit. It causes your eyes to begin to look different, the pupils and such as that. And if a person lies enough, eventually those things won't happen. So you can be a professional liar, and this chemical will not be released into the brain, and then you don't know what the person is saying is true or not. But one thing for sure is, the more we lie, the more we lie. And the more we lie, the easier it gets, so we think. So we got to be careful of that. But for 91% of the people in America will tell you a lie. That's just a bold-faced lie they'll tell you, and they do it on a regular basis. So it'd be good if we got back to what Christ said about not lying. Just yes or no. Let that be it. If you want to go to heaven, you don't need to lie. Revelation 21:8. But the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Don't want to lie, because that's going to keep a person out of heaven. And of the 7 things that God hates, there are 7 things that he hates. In Proverbs 6 and verse 16 through 19, 2 of them pertain to lying. There are 16 the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. So he doubles up on the line. 2 times. 7 things I hate. 7 things that make me sick, God says. And 2 of them have to do with lying. So stay away from it. Stay away from the lying. A person can lie so much they get past the point of feeling. It doesn't hurt them anymore to lie. And those are very dangerous individuals to be around. And Ephesians 4:19, who being past feeling, have given themselves over to lewdness, to work all uncleanness with greediness. Past feeling, beyond that. It doesn't bother them anymore. When they do wrong, there's no guilt. There's no blushing. You just can't tell. It doesn't bother them anymore that a person would lie in such a way. So again, warning against this kind of individual. Here's where it would carry a person that doesn't bother you anymore. 1 Timothy 4:1 and 2. Now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron. Verse 2, a person speaking lies and hypocrisy, that is a person who knows that what he is saying is wrong. He knows it's a lie, and he says it anyway. Speaking lies and hypocrisy. He gets a joy out of it. He gets a joy in messing with you. He gets a joy in seeing you believe him, and then you follow that, what his advice he says, and you get in more trouble with it. Or maybe it costs you a lot of money because you believe the lie. Well, he takes a lot of pride in that. Speaking lies and hypocrisy. Well, because him doesn't bother him, it's having his own conscience seared there is what it will do, a person who just lies so much. Now let's ask this question. Are there situations when it would be better to lie than tell the truth? Well, people think about it. Think about it a lot. Situations would be better for me to lie than to tell the truth. And this is one that sometimes we sort of get in trouble with. What do you think about my shoes? Well, are they good-looking shoes? Are they ugly shoes? What do you think? You going to tell me the truth? What are you going to say? They're the ugliest shoes you've ever seen, but what do we say because we don't want to hurt their feelings? Yeah, they're good. I like them. Wish I had a pair. You might even go to that extent of saying that. What do you think about my haircut? Well, looks good. Looks good on you, yeah. But what happens? I mean, that's the ugliest haircut. They should never got to cut that short, or whatever how it goes, or that color, or whatever. What do? We don't want to hurt the person's feelings. So we begin to reason that it's better to just lie than tell the truth. But is that biblical? Is God going to overlook that? And again, we probably have all done it to some degree. Some degree. Would you lie to save a person's life? Would you lie to save a person's life? Would you lie to save a family member's life? Would you lie to save your own life? It gets pretty deep about this, and we begin to think and begin to reason among ourselves that, well, you know, it's to save a person's life. And the thing about it, we find in the Bible where that very thing has happened. Individuals lied to save either their life or somebody else's life. But did that make it right for them to do such? The first example is Abraham in Genesis 20 and verse 2. He lied to save his own life, so he thought. He thought if Abimelech there knew that Sarah was his wife, and she was a very beautiful woman, the scriptures say, that Abimelech would kill him in order to get his wife. And that's his reasoning. So he said, she's my sister, in verse 2. Well, was she his sister? But yet, he's not telling all the truth, is he? It was his half-sister. His wife was his half-sister. So in a sense, he was telling the truth, but yet not telling the truth. And then in Genesis 20 and 11, when he has to come out about it, he tells Abimelech, because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place. They will kill me on account of my wife. Did it make it right? This lie to save his life. That'd be a very difficult position to find yourself in. To lie in order to save your life. There were many martyrs, Christian martyrs in the first century, that did not lie, and it cost them their life. When they ask about Christ, are you a believer? Well, what happened? Well, it cost them their life. They would not lie about it. All they had to do was deny that they knew anything about Christ, and they lived. But they chose to tell the truth. So to think that a person would lie to save their life, no, not necessarily would they do that. Another example of a lady who lied to save somebody else's life. It's in Joshua 2, in verses 1 through 4, we have Rahab. When the spies were sent to Jericho, and they were found out, and she hid them up in her roof. In verse 1, now Joshua son of Nun sent out 2 men from Makeda Grove to spy secretly, saying, go view the land, especially Jericho. So they went and came to the house of a harlot named Rahab and lodged there. It was told to King Jericho, saying, behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country. So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all of our country. Then the woman took the 2 men and hid them. So she said, yes, the men came to me, but I do not know where they are from. So she is telling a lie to save their life. She hides them. She knew where they were from. She knew they were from Israel. She knew what it was about. Did what she do right? Was it right for her to lie about this? Oh, they would have killed these 2 men unless God would have interceded somehow. But anyway, she lied about it. And there are many people who will use Rahab as an excuse to lie, to say there are certain situations that it's okay to lie in. And I've heard Christians use that as an excuse to lie. Because they'll, after knowing the story, they'll go to Hebrews 11 and verse 31. It says, by faith, Rahab, the harlot Rahab, did not perish with those who did not believe when she had received the spies with peace. They'll say, well, here it is right here, Hebrews 11, 31. She was saved from that. So that if lying had been wrong in that situation, God would have condemned her and she wouldn't have lived through it. He wouldn't have put her name in Hebrews chapter 11 if lying was okay. So how do you go about answering that? Well, it's not the lying that saved her. It was her faith that saved her. She lied and that was wrong. But she did what the spies told her to do, to put the scarlet cord out the window. All her and her family to be in that room in her house, which was on the wall of the city of Jericho. You be there when the attack happens. We see the cord and you'll be saved. And she had put her faith in what those spies told her in order to save her life and her family's life. So it wasn't that lying's okay. And that's why God saved her. God saved her because of her faith. The faith that she put in the message of saving her life through what these men said. But some of our more liberal brethren will come about and saying that lying's okay. And they'll use Rahab as their example. What we got to do, if we want to find out if lying's right or wrong, according to Romans 4 and verse 3, for what does the Scripture say? That's what we got to turn to. What does the Scripture say? And we need to believe God and do our best to do what is right. Would you lie in order to bring someone to Christ? Would you tell a lie, and if that person were to become a Christian, would you tell a lie if it brought about their being saved? Would you do that? Well, look at the good that comes out of the bad. Yeah, I know the lying's wrong, but look at the good. Somebody's saved over it. You might be thinking, how would a person do that? How could you tell a lie in order to bring somebody to a knowledge of truth? Well, the good thing about it is Paul covers this. In Romans chapter 3, beginning in verse 5 through 8, he says, but if our righteousness demonstrates the righteousness of God, what shall we say? Is God unjust who inflicts wrath? I speak as a man. Certainly not. For then how will God judge the world? For if the truth of God has increased through my lie to his glory, why am I also still judged as a sinner? Verse 8. And why not say, let us do evil that good may come, as we are slanderously reported, and some affirm that we say their condemnation is just. Paul is telling us here and some were accusing him. The more I sin, the better it looks on God. That's what they're being accused of. You're going around here teaching that people need to sin more. And because of sinning more, when they are forgiven, it makes God look even greater. And I can do this and this and this, and God will still forgive me? Well, yeah. And have we not told individuals that God will forgive? He looks at our past no more when He forgives, and all that's forgiven. That's what we tell folks. But Paul is saying, no, it's not right that we go out here and sin more just to make God look good. God does not need any help with this reputation. We don't need to do anything to make God look better. God doesn't need us to look better. God is God. He will always be holy. He will never change from that. And Paul is saying here, instead of sinning more, what you need to do is sin less. That shows your respect for God. I'm going to do as God says. He says to sin less. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to sin less. So, would it be a sin to lie in order to get somebody to become a Christian? Again, that falls under what Paul is speaking about here. An example. There was a preacher once, and he made up a story. He was a very popular preacher. And he made up the story that when he was just a little kid, his dad abandoned them, him and his mom. And they were just barely making it. And they lost everything. And they were living under an overpass where they lived a good bit of their life. And people would see them. And people would drop them off food from time to time and clothing. He made his way to school as far as getting him an education. He got educated in elementary and high school. Then he found his way to get a more of an education. He became a Christian during this time. So he goes into a biblical type study and becomes a Christian. And now look at him now. Look how the Lord blessed him and did all this for him. And he was telling people this, and the people were just saying, boy, if he can do it, I can do it. And just running, and just, in a sense, he will fill a building full because people heard him say that, and they connected with that in some way, so they wanted to hear him and be around him. The thing about it, somebody did some research on this guy. None of it was true. He was raised in a very stable home, mom and dad and brothers and sisters. Never had a need or a want for anything. All the way through school, elementary, high school. They paid for his college. Why did he say it? He was asked after he was found out, why did you say that? And he said he saw lying as a way of winning people to Christ. If they believed it, good. Well, again, just because it's a good thing doesn't mean we lie about it. And Paul covered that in Romans 3, what he's talking about. Don't go out here and do evil so it shows just how much God will forgive you. No, you go out here and you live as good of a life as you can, a righteous life, a godly life, a biblical life. You live that, and even then you're going to need God. It's not you're going to live so good of a life that you're going to make it to heaven on your own. You're still going to have to have God. But live a godly life. Follow the ways of God, and let that be your influence on others. Let it be that way. And then we close with this. God has entrusted us with a message that has to be believed in order to be saved. But who is going to believe us if our reputation is built on lies? It's going to be hard to try to teach someone if they know you as to being a liar. It's going to be hard to do that. How are they going to believe you? That's why it's so important that we stay away from lying. Because, again, it ruins our reputation. hard to know if a person has stopped lying. Hard to know if they have. Because you got, let's say if they were a alcoholic, and they say, well, I'm stopped drinking. Well, you can tell that. You can tell if they have, or many other things. But lying, it may be more difficult. It takes time for them to show that I'm saying the right things. But sometimes we color our lies. We got big lies, white lies, black lies, big ones, little ones. We rename them. But whatever we do with it, it's still wrong. It's still wrong to lie. And what we got to understand is sometimes they'll become Christians, and they're pretty rough around the edges. And they'll become a Christian, and they start the growing process, and all of a sudden you may catch them in a little lie. Oh, no, that person's got to repent. They should be ashamed of themselves. I thought that person was a Christian. Remember where they were before. Rough. But look where they are now. They're growing. It's a process. And if we find ourselves with the little white lies, let's try to get the process and get that out of our system and work through that and learn how to tell the truth in a better way. That's what we need. So that's what Jesus had to say about lying. He said, don't do it. Don't do it. Any comments? All right. I'm not sure what next week's topic could be, but it'll be here's what Jesus says about this. So we'll go with that.